people? Welcome to Have Guitar Will Travel, presented by Vintage Guitar Magazine, with your host, me, James Patrick Regan, otherwise known as Jimmy from the Deadlies. And today I'm speaking with guitarist Steve Marker from the band Garbage. In our conversation, Steve tells us about living in Palm Springs and his tour coming up, and the gear he'll be using on the tour, a Gretsch Brian Setzer and a Line 6 Helix. Steve also talks about his gear at home, boutique amps, pedals, and vintage guitars. Steve talks about Garbage's new album, Let All That We Imagine Be the Light, and the songwriting and production process for the album. Steve tells us about his musical journey and growing up outside of New York City and gives us insight into some of the early concerts he saw. And finally, Steve describes the formation of Garbage while recording indie alternative bands in Wisconsin. To find out more about Steve and the band Garbage, you can go to their website, garbage.com. That's GARBAGE.com. Please subscribe, like, comment, share, and most of all, review this podcast. I'd really appreciate it. And please support Vintage Guitar Magazine and all the wonderful things they do for us guitar players, because they do so many wonderful things for us guitar players. Here's my buddy Steve. Hey there, Steve.
Hey, James. I'm doing great.
Good.
How are you?
You look good.
So do you.
Where
are you?
I'm in Napa, California.
Nice.
Where are you?
Palm Springs.
Oh. Right on.
I think you got the better temperaters.
Maybe today. Well, it depends. You know, if you go up valley, it could be in the hundreds, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, right where I am at, it's close to the bay, so it's not bad.
Yeah.
How about where you are? What's the temperature today?
We're looking at 102 right now.
Oh, no. What made you decide to go to Palm Springs?
It's near LA, but it's not LA.
That's a good reason right there.
You can get there in 2 hours,
yeah.
For work, and it's turning into, there's some people out here. I'm starting to meet musicians and that sort of thing.
Yeah. So and why not Vegas?
Don't have the best memories of Vegas.
Yeah, that's a good reason too. But there seems to be an enclave of 80s and 90s and 00s out there.
Yeah, that's true.
Let me ask you, what kind of guitars are you going to be playing on this next tour?
My number one these days is a Gretsch Brian Setzer signature model. And I've had it for maybe 3 years now.
Okay.
And it's just fantastic. I think it's like one of the best made guitars I've ever had. And
it's not like something that Steve in the custom shop made for you. It's just
no, I have nothing to do with it. Don't know Steve, but oh God, what are the pickups? I'm drawing a blank. It's his signature pickup.
Oh, the TV Jones?
Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah, that's cool. No problem.
And I've kind of gone back and gotten that same pickup for a lot of my other guitars that I might play live to kind of keep things consistent.
Yeah, of course.
And they just have a great amount of kind of creaminess, goodness, but also clarity. And the more you dig into them, the more you can kind of get them to growl. And really nice. Really
of course. And so, what is your whole chain look like on the current tour?
Live is everything on stage is digital.
Okay.
Unfortunately, maybe that's just kind of how we evolved over the years.
Nothing wrong with that. That's the way things are.
Line 6 Helix.
Okay.
For both guitars and for our bass, which is doing Roland sampled drums. But that enables us to, we're not the biggest band in the world, and to these days with shipping and everything, to go play in Australia, then Europe, then back here.
Sure.
With a full back line is really expensive.
Yes, it is.
This way we can fit stuff into a smaller amount of road cases.
Yeah.
It's exactly the same every night. Easy to tweak.
Yes.
You don't have a pedal, going wonky on you because something got unsoldered somewhere and you don't know where. I totally miss having a beautiful tube amp and some pedals to play with, and I still do that at home.
Yeah.
But for on the road, it's just become much more efficient and consistent to do it this way.
What do you have at home?
I've got this matchless.
Okay.
DC 30, I guess.
Yes, exactly.
Beautiful. I guess from the 90s, we bought a bunch of those for recording, and and I managed to hang on one of those. I have this Mojave, which is what is it? It's right here. It's a Plexi 45, so it's basically like a Marshall ID, and that is just amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing. And I've been buying a lot of goofy pedals, and that's always fun to play around with too.
Sure. What is your pedal count up to?
Oh, nothing that impressive. Not in the hundreds, but I don't know. Walrus has got some amazingly weird and cool stuff that I still don't really understand what it is.
Sure. And how about your guitar collection? What's that look like?
I use that a lot on the favorite guitars I have. Here at home, I've got guitars that I've had since like 1980. I have this like 1959 Jazzmaster.
Right on.
That I paid $100 for.
Wow.
Back then. Gretsch, it's like a red fire jet. That's it. From around 60, 61 or something like that. That was also that. I think that was $90. And on this album, I used this 68 Telecaster that I had traded for something, when I was in college. And it's just sort of a magic guitar, like totally simple, as Telecasters tend to be. And but it's kind of inspiring just to pick it up, and it's so great. And that's not a year they were really known for their best stuff, but for some reason this one really has a resonance to it. And like 40 years ago, I zip stripped the white paint off of it so I could have it be a more like Springsteen.
Yeah, exactly. That's great. How much does it weigh?
What's that?
How much does that weigh?
No idea. It's pretty heavy, actually.
Okay.
It's pretty solid.
And the new album is called "There's No Future in Optimism." Is that correct?
That's the new single. And the album is called "Let All That We Imagine Be the Light."
Oh, very good. And is it as heavy as the previous records?
Hopefully heavier. I mean, how heavy in what way?
Heavy in the sense that like the wall of sound.
In places it is.
Okay.
In places it is. In some places there's a lot more space. And every record you try to mix it up and come up with new things.
Of course.
That aren't too far away from what people expect of you, but you try to keep it interesting for yourself. And so there's some stuff that's very, very sparse, like maybe one guitar. Yeah. Where maybe in the past we would have layered it with 15 guitars. But there is a lot of we just can't get away from our love of really saturated, very distorted guitars. And hopefully there's a contrast between when those are happening and then, boom, something else will, a scene change, and there's something, maybe it's a clean Telecaster after that. But
sure.
Hopefully it's never ever just one thing.
Yep. And did you do the production work on the album? Yeah,
well, everything we've ever done has been the four of us sitting in a room, and we call ourselves the producers. And we had our engineer Billy Bush has also helped on this, so he's a producer too. But, Shirley, who's obviously the singer, will have as many, if not more, ideas about how something should sound, or that synth sound sucks, try something else, or that guitar is way too clean, or whatever. As much as any of us. Sure. I guess that's what we call production. Or that idea is the dumbest thing I ever heard. Please erase it now. or just encouraging people.
Sure.
And we're all sitting in the room doing it together, basically.
Yeah. Do you guys all show up with demos of songs that apart from each other, or?
We do, and then we throw them out right away. Nobody. It's kind of tough because we all do stuff at home a lot, and then you have this thing of like 40 song ideas, and then that's times 4 people.
Yeah.
It's way too many ideas, and it's too all over the place, and so we end up. Best intentions, yes, we'll all sit down and listen to each other's demos, and it never happens because it's no fun.
Yeah.
What is fun for us is when the 4 of us get in a room with no preconceived ideas.
Yep.
And what can we make out of nothing here?
Yeah.
And that's where the excitement is, when everybody's kind of firing away at trying to solve this problem as a collective mind.
Yeah. Do you guys do that in a studio, or do you do it in a rehearsal studio?
It's in the studio, whether it was in Butch's basement.
Okay, I gotcha.
We rarely go into like a high-end record plant kind of setup anymore. We have our engineer Billy has another basement full of great gear, but it's about as big as a closet.
Sure.
It's not comfortable.
Yeah.
But we kind of like that.
Yeah. And where's Billy's place at?
It's in Atwater Village in L.A.
Okay. Wow. Oh, there's a basement in Atwater Village?
There's a basement in L.A. and live in it.
Very good. So let me go back to early years. When did you start playing guitar?
I think when I was 12.
Okay.
And I'm 66 now, so whatever. That math is beyond me, but
okay. That's beyond me too.
Really young. I got encouraged by the parents, and they had the same story as everybody. Had a horrible piece of shit that you could barely play, and just kind of went from there. But it was always in high school.
Sure. Were there guitarists that inspired you, or?
Oh God, I think I learned just about every note on Live at Fillmore East.
Okay. Wow.
Brothers, those guys, incredible.
Yeah.
I love Peter Frampton's playing.
Sure.
Love Robert Fripp is probably my number one, just in terms of the atmospherics and what he can do.
Yeah.
Is unbelievable.
Yeah, of course.
And it's definitely not the most technical. Well, he's technical, but didn't have much interest in the shredding in the 80s kind of stuff.
Yeah.
More, I'd rather listen to Keith Richards and Ronnie Wood work together.
Yeah.
Rhythmically, almost more than anything.
Yeah. And your first real guitar, what was that?
I got an SG, a brand new Gibson SG at Manny's on 47th Street in New York City.
Wow.
And my dad took me down there, and that was my first real electric.
I should ask you, where did you grow up when you're
outside of New York City.
Okay.
Upstate a little bit.
Yeah. And what was New York City like when you bought that SG?
It was a real hellscape back then. That would have been early 70s.
Yeah.
And it was no man's land, but I was a little kid and didn't really know that.
Yeah.
My parents, for some reason, would let me go down on the train into the city to I saw the Rolling Stones in 75.
Right on.
And, and I went to the Garden all the time. And it was
wow.
a crime-ridden hellscape. But we didn't know that. Nobody bothered us. It was great.
And so no, you didn't have any issues with the crime in the area?
Not a tiny bit.
Okay. And what were some memorable concerts that you saw back then?
Oh God!
Besides the Rolling Stones,
Roy Buchanan. I was just yesterday. There was somebody was talking about unsung guitarists. Roy Buchanan.
Yeah.
Saw him at the Beacon Theater.
Wow.
Danny Gatton.
Oh yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Playing with Robert Gordon at the Lone Star Bar.
Oh, right on. You saw that too.
Yeah.
I saw him here in Berkeley.
Awesome. That was with the beer bottle?
Yes, of course.
Amazing. And fourth row for the Rolling Stones.
Right on.
pretty good. I think it cost about $11.
Yeah.
I don't know. There's too many to mention.
Yeah.
Deep Purple with Tommy Bolin.
Yeah. That's fantastic too.
Yeah.
Tommy Bolin, like one of the most, that also an unsung hero.
Yeah, one of those guys. Yeah.
And what was your first band experience?
Playing at the high school dance. The senior dance or whatever it was. I think I was probably a junior in high school. And to this day, I can't figure out why this happened. We thought that we could play Yes. So we played All Good People, and I sang it.
Oh, my goodness.
Which I don't know. There's no record of it, thankfully. I can't sing, so I don't know how we did that. But Steve Howe, another... I've never been able to even approximate what he was able to do.
Yeah.
But loved his playing.
Sure.
Even as a shitty high school guitar player.
Yeah. And so what led up to the formation of Garbage?
I went to school out in Wisconsin and met Butch, and then he was in a band with Duke. So that's the three guys in the band. And Butch and I bonded over a love of recording. Mm-hmm. And there wasn't a lot available in the middle of Wisconsin in the 80s, early 80s. I had a 4-track TAC reel-to-reel, which he found very interesting, and we got that and got some 4 or 5 Shure 58s.
Yeah.
And started recording punk bands, and then we rented a little room, and then we rented a bigger room and got some more gear, and then eventually built it up over 10 years, say, into a really pretty high-end analog recording studio. Got a name for ourselves doing indie underground alternative at the time.
Yeah.
Records, and Butch really got a name for himself as a producer.
Yeah.
He did some, what ended up being very big records, which basically allowed him to be able to, do whatever he wanted. And he wanted to make a band with his buddies, and none of us could really sing that great. So we met Shirley.
Yeah. How'd you meet Shirley?
We had this idea that we wanted to work with a female voice instead of what grunge was becoming almost a parody of itself, of the bellowing male, angst-ridden guy. Yeah. Which had gotten boring for us, and we loved people like Chrissy Hine.
Yeah.
Patti Smith, Blondie. We wanted to do something more pop, but maybe it sounded kind of weird, but was still kind of pop, but also with heavy guitars usually.
Yeah.
And started looking around, and she was in another band that had a video that was on MTV once, and I happened to see it, and we called her up because we liked her voice.
Yeah. How'd you find her number?
We had a manager who was getting us production work.
Okay.
And they looked it up.
And you mentioned the punk scene in Wisconsin. Like, what was the punk scene like at early on?
Looking back on it, it was awesome. It was a lot of basement parties and local rec center hardcore shows. And I worked at a club in Madison. It was like a college rock club, but they had all the Southern California, Black Flag, Agent Orange, I don't know, Descendants, all these, the hardcore bands come through, the SST bands. And we met all those people. Yeah. And this band Killdozer in Madison became, that's how Nirvana found Butch, as they liked the Killdozer records.
Oh, wow, right on.
They were on a label called Touch and Go out of Chicago.
Yeah.
So it was a very, very small little scene, but it's interesting how it kind of, branched out into other things.
Yeah, exactly. And how'd you guys get your first major deal?
We just made some demos and like any band,
Yeah.
we never played a show. We didn't even think we would ever play a show.
Really?
It was more of a studio thing at first. Made some demos and cassettes.
Yeah.
Sent them around. To be honest, Butch had a name at that time that he could have done whatever he wanted.
Sure.
So it was easier for us than a lot of the bands.
Yeah.
But still, people had to like what we were doing.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean,
about it.
And certainly the stuff that you guys did was epic.
Well, it turned out to work out. It worked out for us. And
Yeah. Well, you're very humble about it, but it was fantastic. So what were you using when on your first record? What were you using as far as gear?
a lot of these had it here in this room.
Oh, really?
But it was analogs.
Yeah.
Analog tape. Anything in Pro Tools now is like so easy.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of bad because it's too easy.
Yeah.
You can play do one tape and fix it up and fix up this measure, and when you're going to 2-inch 24-track analog tape, you kind of have to get it right pretty much all the way through.
Yeah.
And to double that, you have to do another take that's just as good.
Yes.
Now you can copy paste, and so we're guilty of that once in a while too. But I think it was having that difficulty of the analog tape, and things didn't really sync up with virtual instruments now. It's so easy to do a synth track now in your laptop.
Yes. Yeah.
Obviously, and a drum track.
Yeah.
And back then, we would try to hook up a sampler through MIDI and the SMPTE sync code to the analog tape deck and hope that they ran together for most of the song in time. And then you'd have to go back and check it, and it was just a lot more time-consuming work. But I think that was good because you were battling against something, and I think that was good for creativity.
Sure.
I mean, anybody can just make a dance track now in like 10 minutes. And anybody.
And so on the new album, as far as amps, is it digital amps, or are you using actual blowing?
In the studio, no, we have, Billy has a whole setup where he's got, it's usually using the Universal Audio X
Yep.
interface. But he has this diesel head.
Yeah.
He loves, which to me seems maybe a little too mellow, metal.
Yeah.
It's very metal. He loves using it, and old old Fender.
Yeah.
Some like old blackface.
Yeah.
Bassman types heads that you really can't go wrong with that.
Yeah.
Audio Kitchen is another brand of amps that he uses a lot. I think they're from London.
Let me ask you this. What are you doing between now and July 20th, which is the first date that's listed on your tour?
Well, we just played at a pretty big festival in L.A.
Okay.
About 5 days ago on Saturday. It was called Cruel World. It had
all kinds of bands.
Nick Cave and Devo and all these great bands. Anyway, doing a TV show next week in LA.
Okay.
Jimmy Kimmel.
Okay, very good.
And
how nerve-wracking is it to do the TV shows like Jimmy Kimmel?
It's pretty bad even now. I mean, we did Saturday Night Live once, and that was I almost died. the stress, knowing that. And there was so much that could go wrong back then. I think we were probably still on analog, tube amps.
Yeah.
Well, it could catch on fire. Who knows? But it all worked out.
Yeah.
But it is stressful. We got a couple. We're doing an opening for My Chemical Romance in August.
Oh yeah.
At like a stadium in Texas somewhere. But mainly we're getting ready for. Our fall tour across the states.
And is it like, do you have full production rehearsals and the whole deal, or do you guys just show up?
Yeah, we have to. Oh God, we can't do that. I wish we could, but we've got about 3 weeks of rehearsing in LA.
Okay.
And yeah, there's always. Well, we hope to play songs from the new album.
Sure, of course.
And we've got about 40 shows in a row, so you don't want to do the same thing every night. So you want to have a pretty wide palette to choose from.
Yeah.
We're not a jam band. We don't just go off on tangents, but we do mix up the set list a little bit.
Yeah. And so, like, when you do Jimmy Kimmel, how many shots at the song do you get? Just one?
Well, the late nights are taped that afternoon. So I bet if we screwed up really bad, they'd let us do it again.
Yeah.
But you pretty much have to nail it.
Yeah. And so what do you do outside of music for fun?
Road biking.
Yeah. It's pretty hot there to go road biking, though.
Oh, that's the problem. I got to find some place to take my bike and get out of the heat.
Yeah. Are you married? Do you have kids?
I have a 25-year-old daughter, and I am married.
Okay, very good.
she's in just out of college, and trying to make it in LA.
Yeah. And you didn't discourage her from living in LA?
Nope.
Okay.
That's kind of she wants to be a writer and comedy and drama, and that's where you got to be.
That's where you got to be. Did she go to USC or UCLA?
Yeah, USC.
Yes, USC. Very good.
How about you?
This isn't about me.
Okay.
No. It's I have 2 kids, and one of them my daughter lives in Ventura. She's a dive instructor.
Oh, nice.
And then my son lives here in Napa, and he works at some fancy restaurant as the expediter in the kitchen.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. He probably has the more stressful job out of the 2 of them.
Yeah.
I've never been to the restaurant. I probably never will.
It's not the French Laundry, is it?
It is not the French Laundry, no.
Okay. They've been getting into some trouble lately.
Have they really?
A little bit.
I'm out of the loop as far as that's concerned.
Yeah.
No, it's the CIA. He works at the Culinary Institute of America.
Hey?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But not as a student. He's actually, they have a couple restaurants that they throw their chefs into. So he gets to deal with the chefs. Well, Steve, it's been wonderful talking to you. I appreciate your time. I wish you the best of luck, and don't stress, Jimmy. Don't stress the late night shows.
We'll try not to. Yeah. I like your Gretsch poster there, by the way.
That was, NAMM special. There's a few of them. I don't know if I can. Over there's another one, and then gig posters and stuff. Oh, and of course the Elvis.
Cool.
And Dwight Yoakam, and nothing.
I see Dwight up there.
Yeah.
Who was this? Pete Anderson was his guitar player.
Pete Anderson was his original guitar player, the one that actually helped him achieve all that success. Yeah,
he was great.
Oh, he's fantastic. And he had currently Eugene Edwards is playing with him. And Eugene he was a guitar player at Disneyland, and he played with Sha-Na-Na on their final tours, and then he ended up with. And then before him was Eddie Perez, and Eddie Perez played with James Ingram and was in the Mavericks, and that's where he's back with the Mavericks now.
Okay.
But also both Eugene and Eddie are both LA alumni. Well, thank you, Steve.
Yeah, thank you, James.
My pleasure.
Nice talking to you.
Yeah, nice talking to you.
See you down the road. All right.
I hope so.
Take care, man. Bye.
Thanks for listening to Have Guitar Will Travel. You can catch up on all the things I'm doing at thedeadlies.com, and I'm on all the social media platforms as well. And please support Vintage Guitar and all the wonderful things they do, because they do many, many wonderful things for us guitar players. Thanks. Please subscribe. Please tell a friend, and I'll see you guys next week. Bye, guys.